Each year, as summer winds down, the ultimate American pop-up retailer winds up.
We've sort of now established August 1st as National Spirit Halloween Day.
Here for work this week from Ireland, and yeah, my wife was asking to get some like Halloween stuff while we're here, and we don't have Halloween stores like this back in Ireland.
In 2024, the Halloween chain has opened over 1,500 locations across North America and grosses around $1 billion according to some estimates. Achieving this is not an easy feat, considering the company's unique real estate model.
We don't see an abandoned Kmart.
We see a spirit Halloween.
This New York City flagship Spirit Halloween location opened here for the first time in 2024. Previously, this 21,000 plus square foot store was a bye-bye baby that became vacant after the company went bankrupt last year.
We spoke with the broker who told us that the asking price for the ground floor of this location is $100 per square foot. The property also includes additional space downstairs at a lower cost. It's unclear what Spirit paid for the duration of its lease.
In retail, Black Friday, holidays, the periods where you make most of your money. But here, you're literally making your entire year in 4 weeks, and you have to do it so effectively, and they're really good at it.
So how did Spirit Halloween turn the pop-up store concept into a $1 billion operation?
These are fun. I'll be a pickle, okay? I'll be the pickle.
I'll be the cup of noodle.
Longtime mall retailer Spencer's bought the Spirit Halloween brand in 1999. After serving as the president of Linens and Things, Steven Silverstein stepped in to run the company in 2003.
I got us all together and I said, all right, let's just imagine for a second. I don't know how we're going to do it, but if we could, what do you think the market potential is for Spirit Halloween? So this is 2003. We had 130 stores, and we all sort of got together, held hands, and said, 400. If we could just get to 400, man, that would be unbelievable.
About a decade later, Spirit Halloween surpassed 1,000 locations. Today, it sits at over 1,500.
This is pretty awesome.
Spencer Spirit Holdings is a privately held company and declined to share financial data with CNBC. But in 2015, Moody's estimated the company's sales to be around $400 million. By January of 2024, that number had reached $1.9 billion for the combined businesses. Spencer's currently operates less than half the number of Spirit Halloweens, but its stores are open all year round.
Most of the revenue and the margin is generated by Spirit, and most of their the overall business's income and revenue is generated leading to Halloween, that quarter that has Halloween in it.
Let's see what the cost of this costume is. I'm interested. So this would run you $30 to be a pickle.
Spirit's growth in recent years reflects broader U.S. Halloween spending trends. Americans are estimated to spend $11.6 billion on Halloween in 2024. That's around $3 billion more than 2019.
You go back to what happened in 2020, 2021, people had money in their pocket from stimulus. So people started spending more on Halloween. The business at Spirit has more than doubled than pre-COVID in terms of revenue, but they've really been able to drive additional traffic in the store.
The company does operate an online storefront, but told CNBC that accounts for a single-digit percentage of its sales. That's because a key part of its offering is the experiential nature of its stores. Take a look at these animatronics, or this fun house right here.
Spirit Halloween's entire business relies on landlords that haven't been able to sign their property full-time and are willing to take a short-term lease. Out of the top 5 prior tenants of Spirit Halloween locations, 4 of the 5 filed for bankruptcy in recent years. CNBC looked at a dozen random Spirit Halloween locations across 11 different states. 11 out of the 12 previous tenants have filed for bankruptcy at some point. The short-term lease is often a win for a struggling landlord as well. It gives them time to negotiate and sign a lease with a long-term lessee while still drawing foot traffic and security to the area.
Yeah, so this is a great business model overall. So a few things that they have touched on. One is they've highlighted the seasonality of this type of business. So obviously Halloween products are mostly going to be relevant for Halloween and around the Halloween time. But it's worth noting that basically all businesses are seasonal to some extent. It's possible you could have multiple seasons in a year, but most businesses usually have a peak throughout the year that they know exists. So these can be around particular holidays or particular seasons. So for instance, maybe clothing brands, maybe they get more sales in the summer when people are looking to go out, potentially more than in the winter, and they want new clothes to kind of enjoy their time and be able to present themselves the way they would like. There's also potentially around the fall for like kids going back to school. So I'm sure like office supplies, things like that probably have a boost in sales around that time because so many folks are buying specifically at that time of the year. And so some businesses have more steady trends throughout the year, but all businesses have some type of seasonality to them. And what Spirit is doing is that they're kind of taking advantage of how extreme that is for this business, the Halloween time. And as they're highlighting here, basically, a number of retail locations have been struggling over the last few years post-COVID. And basically what Spirit is relying on is the fact that there's going to be empty retail space out in America somewhere around the Halloween time. And so they are basically coming in and doing a short-term lease, maybe for a month or two, in order to basically facilitate their prime business timing, which is around Halloween. So they can get a lease for like 1 or 2 months, let's say, fill in an empty retail location, and as they're highlighting, maybe give a little bit more money to the landlord in this case. And they might even be doing it at a discount because, again, the landlord might be looking for long-term tenants, generally speaking. And so they might not be expecting anyone to close a deal at this particular time frame. And so they could just be giving them a little extra cash to get by to, again, negotiate more, potentially hold out for a much bigger tenant at that point in time. And so they might even be getting a discount to be in these spaces for 1 or 2 months. And it's a win-win where Spirit might get a smaller, less expensive lease. They also don't need a lease throughout the year because people are not going to be buying Halloween costumes in like Christmas time or something like that. And then the tenant pays in to the landlord, and then the landlord gets extra income that they might not have had either way. And so this is a great example of finding ways to kind of maximize your business. And so I think this is a cool setup that Spirit has and how they're accomplishing this type of growth.
They're looking to rent that space to a permanent tenant. That will only happen in the beginning of the year because very few retailers will build out a space and miss Christmas. So once you get to June or July, if you've got an empty retail space, that space is not going to get occupied at the very earliest until January or February of the following year.
Pricing is another important consideration. This leasing proposal is for a storefront in Redding, California that was previously a Barnes & Noble, a once bankrupt retailer. A broker that CNBC spoke with said that a permanent tenant in the area would pay between $16 and $18 per square foot. That's about $27,000 per month for that location. It's also about the same price as Spirit's proposal for the 4.5-month contract. Suburban locations usually fall in the range of $20,000 to $40,000 for the Halloween season, according to experts that CNBC spoke with. Meanwhile, a storefront in New York City may be well north of 6 figures.
The difference between 5 and 50,000 feet is not, we don't pay 10 times the rent. We're looking at each of these locations, understanding what our volume potential is, which we've learned over many, many years, and that will translate into a fair rent payment.
Now the pop-up chain is looking to take its business past Halloween. It announced the piloting of 10 Spirit Christmas locations in October of 2024. 8 of those stores are currently Spirit Halloweens, meaning those leases are signed beyond their typical move-out dates. 4 of them were formerly Christmas tree shops, which filed for bankruptcy in 2023. Over the years, Spirit Halloween has become a trusted company within the real estate world.
Yeah, so this is again, where they're kind of getting an advantage, they highlighted the fact that permanent leases generally start to happen in January. So if you have empty locations, they said you can basically assume that they're going to be empty till the January time from October. So you could hit some major holiday events like Halloween and Christmas. And they were highlighting like Christmas tree shops there. And so this is where it's challenging for a business that might get most of their revenue in a particular quarter, like 3-4 months of the year. And that they then have to rent the entire year. And they're likely not getting the same discount that like a Spirit would be getting for this unused time, because they're actually in the serious negotiations with the landlord that they would potentially be there for years to come. And so there's a lot of overhead to maintain a retail location if you have very seasonal products that Spirit seems to be taking advantage of here and going into the Christmas holiday time as well.
Larry Link, president of New York real estate firm Level Group, told CNBC that its track record has eliminated the risks of a standard pop-up, and Spirit can use that to drive an aggressive deal. This is unique because Link says that New York City pop-up stores would typically pay a 20 to 30% premium to use the space for a short-term contract. That's because renting space to a temporary storefront comes with more risk than a traditional retailer. Some may not decide to leave when their 3 to 4 month lease expires, and litigation is expensive and time-consuming. Spirit says securing contracts was a lot more difficult in its early years.
There was hesitance because of the unknown. We were not known. It was just, we had to explain, well, what is Spirit Halloween? You do what? And how do you do that? And why should I have confidence that you're going to come in and be a benefit to me?
The typical challenge of a regular retailer is that you commit for a lease for 5 years, and you discover you have a terrible location, but now you're stuck. Well, they are not. In their case, once they find the saturation point, they will learn it immediately, and then all they need to do is not reopen that location next year.
I think this is pretty great.
Chips and salsa.
Chips and salsa.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. I think we'd get a lot of funny looks at the office, but
I did not wear a costume last year.
I know some people did. I think this is our year.
To run its 1,500-store temporary retail business, the company is hiring 50,000 seasonal workers in 2024.
Labor market can fluctuate from year to year. Labor market can be fluctuating because of more short-term issues that are harder to anticipate. And I think that that's kind of the exposure that Spirit and other companies selling for short time windows are exposed to.
But there are some other potential challenges too. Although many Spirit Halloween stores are open for 3 months, a lot of the company's sales are done in the 2 weeks leading up to the holiday.
If it's a really cold year, if it's a storm coming through and the kids are not going to be able to go out trick or treating, all those things are going to have a huge impact on the demand for that particular year. By then, the stores are already committed, the inventory is already committed, and that can affect the performance of the Halloween season for that particular year.
When it comes to merchandising at stores, the company carries a mix of things that are ultra relevant and trendy to the current year. Think about the Beetlejuice movie that just came out. It has a whole section here dedicated to just that. But then there are things that are more classic Halloween. Think evergreen costumes like witches or cats. The company can rely on the fact that year after year, things like a broomstick are going to be sought after.
The evergreen stuff doesn't sell. No harm, no foul. You just carry it into the next season. Unlike most of retail, having inventory is not a bad thing. If you have to hold it year over year, you can still use it.
It's funny because, you go from these like bloody Scream masks to Garfield, all within 20 feet. It's hilarious.
We're actually looking to be in stock going into those last 2 weeks, whereas other retailers who are trying to fully liquidate really have to be, sort of at their last licks, if anything.
Another consideration is tariffs. With merchandise coming from overseas, those could increase depending on the results of the 2024 election.
They need to anticipate those orders sometimes months in advance to the Halloween season. They buy in locations of the world that are like cheap to produce. You can think of like Southeast Asia, China. That's probably where many of these products are coming from. These require long lead times and a lot of long-term planning.
We're deep into 2025 right now, even conceptualizing 2026. And that's really part of that supply chain puzzle. It's a relay race. We have a calendarization of everything that has to happen. So right now we're in the concepting phase and we're doing a lot of the early prep work, but you have to get those seeds in the ground. And, certainly we'll be influenced by what comes out of our Halloween experience this year.
Thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, please hit like or subscribe. I will see you around.